Welcome to our webinar on customer experience in the new reality. My name is Pilar de Miguel. I'm partner on KPMG LG. I'm the head of experience design and innovation, and I'm with you today to share the key insights of our report on the customer experience excellence. The COVID-19 has changed consumer behavior around the world. Customers are becoming increasingly digital, displaying unfamiliar patterns of demand and develop specific physical needs driven by social distancing. The flight to digital is forcing companies to be more adaptive, to drive technical innovation as rapidly as they can, and to get closer to the customers. Actually, we are seeing many firms reacting in the short term to establish their integrity, striving to act in the best interest of their customers, doing the right thing regardless of profit impact, showing real care for their employees and their customers. But for other companies, however, this can be a prelude to seismic disruption. Existing trends have been accelerated and new ones introduced. So they need to be ready to react because the basis for many customers' decisions may have shifted. In the UAE market, from our research and interaction with our clients, we see organizations increasingly characterized by innovation and driven by the desire to be world-leading across every single function. Today, we are going to present to you the key findings for this report. Before starting, I would like to share some webinar tips. So today we will be recording this session. The session will be shared with you on email within 48 hours of the webinar. Your mic is on mute, please, but submit any questions that you can have in the Q&A button on the right-hand side. We will answer as many as we can at the end of the session, and we would like to have your feedback. It's the only way that we have to really improve the experience that we are providing to you. So please, once that the webinar is over, you will be redirected to an exit survey. Please take a minute and give us the feedback, what you think are more valuable. So on today's session, after this short introduction, we are going to present the global insights, because at the end it's also important to see how this pandemic, unprecedented pandemic, has been impacted the global impact globally. But we will move also to have a local insights, how our customers in UAE are perceiving the experience provided by the brands on these unprecedented times. After that, we will open a panel discussion and we will close the session with a Q&A. So now, please, let me give you some insights about, some information about the UAE report, the Customer Experience Excellence Report. This research has been conducted via an online survey completed in the second quarter of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. On this time, we reached 1,512 consumers. They were interviewed to provide their feedback about 56 brands. We get in total close to 8,000 evaluations about these 56 brands. Okay, sorry, it sounds that maybe my voice is not clear. So the information regarding this evaluation is about the interaction of these consumers with the brand. What we mean by interaction is a consumer making a purchase, using the company's products and services, contacting a company with a query, or even browsing their website or store. So not all people participating on the survey have been existing customers of the brand they evaluate. But clearly, they are reminding the brand for any kind of interaction of the past 2 months. So, and now it's time to present our panelists. I'm pleased to introduce the 3 panelists that will join today for a discussion. So we have Julio Hernandez, that is the KPMG Global Lead Customer Center of Excellence. We have the honor to have Vikram Krishna, Head of Group Marketing and Customer Experience of Emirates MBD, as well as Craig Goddard. Thank you very much, Craig. That is the Customer Experience Group Director for Majid Al Futtaim. And now I would like to hand over to Julio Julio, thank you very much for being with us today. So if you may, you can give us some view on about the global insights.
Thank you, Pilar. I really appreciate joining you guys today and having the opportunity to share our insights from the Global Customer Experience Excellence Study. And just building on what Pilar described, we went around the world and interviewed tens of thousands of customers to understand what they were seeing in brands, which brands they thought were the most at the best at delivering great customer experiences, and then tried to understand what they were doing so that we could share that with our clients in the marketplace so that we can all work better to serve our clients in the new reality. So if we go to the next slide, in terms of the coverage of the Customer Experience Excellence Study, we went and covered 27 countries. So you can see we have we've got Asia, North America, South America, Europe, and Australia, 27 countries in total, including jurisdictions, including Hong Kong. Over 100,000 consumers and 806,000 evaluations of brands from the folks. So we were able to see certain trends that came across, and we'd like to highlight some of those today. We go to the next slide, please. So really, if you think about the evolution of customers, we're really in a very different age today than we were even 10 years ago in terms of how customers want to be engaged, how companies are thinking about engaging with those customers, and what's going to be required for us to move forward. If you think about the pre-1950s, this was really about capacity and production and being able to manufacture goods. Between the 1950 and the 2000s, though, the value of a brand and really standing for something in terms of your product and services was really incredibly important. And you saw that with the acceleration of companies like Procter & Gamble and Unilever and Adidas and other brands. In between 2000 and 2015, we had this tremendous explosion based on the internet, based on the doing e-business, and just it became much more a global environment. And between 2015 and 2020, we started attacking and serving different types of customers, seeing more millennials, more Generation Zs, and they really were more digitally inclined. And so the things about doing business with them, using platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, and others started to really accelerate. And then came 2020, and I think for all of us, 2020 has been a year that's been like no other. And as we quickly approach the end of the year, I think it's important just to look at what the consumers have been telling us about the brands that are serving them, the ones that are customer experience leaders. But clearly, how you engage with customers today is very different than where we were engaging with customers at the turn of the millennial. If we go to the next slide, please. What you see here are some stats, and I want to just share a few with you. First and foremost, I think it's really important as we think about the Customer Experience Excellence Study to really come to a headline. And that was very much about meeting your customers where they were and where they are. The reality is that customers shut down in many ways, going to retail stores or going to the retail branch or going to see their financial advisor. And they started thinking about how do they want to be engaged. And what we found was it was the companies that were able to engage their customers where they were at in a way that they could transact. And clearly commerce and transacting is a lifeblood of an organization when it comes to its customers. They're the ones that actually succeeded. The ones that had to shut down and couldn't engage with their customers, they suffered dramatically. And you see this across the world. So when Disney shut down its parks, it really, even though it has a tremendous brand, it was really hard for it to kind of maintain its position. And as they started to pivot to an online platform, a streaming platform, things started to change. But in the moment when the study was done, they suffered. And so it's really important to think about the engagement and meeting your customers where they are. Another thing that was very interesting is when you looked at the pulse of the marketplace and the consumer, 79% of the customers were very concerned about the economic outlook. And again, you can imagine, we went down into the lockdown starting in March and into the early summer, and folks were really just concerned about what does the economic outlook look like. And so that really determined a lot of how they thought about things. When you saw how did past strong performers perform in the short in this study, 7 of the 19 top brands actually maintained their position, which was really good. So what you can see from that was they were engaging the customer where they wanted to be engaged. They were working with the customers, understanding the customers, delivering personalization, but also in the moment, as Pilar mentioned, there was 2 things that really got a lot of attention. One was integrity. So were you continuing to do business in a manner that was viewed as having integrity and not taking advantage of the situation, not price gouging, maybe potentially giving a discount back. For instance, one major insurance company that always does well in the US study is a company called USAA. And they actually said people aren't driving as much, so we can actually discount and send money back to the policyholders because there's not as much risk. And again, that was viewed. And even though the dollars weren't very much, it was viewed as having very much integrity. In addition to that, just empathetic about the environment that folks found themselves in. This was a key issue for folks to really see from the companies that really did well. So this idea of integrity and empathy were really critically important. There were some other stats that were interesting. The logistics sector actually increased significantly in terms of its performance, and we think that has a lot to do with meeting the customers where they are and basically being the lifeblood of consumers as things were being delivered to individuals' households or individuals' businesses, so that they could actually move forward and really transact with companies. We also saw that the non-food retailers really outperformed most of their other sectors, with the exception of financial services. And in financial services, interestingly enough, 12 of the top 27 brands represented financial services institutions. So really a big change from 2008 when we had the financial crisis to 2020. And so we saw some common thematics. So if we can go to the next slide. So you can start to see some of the leaders here from across the world. And I wanted to call out a couple. I wanted to call out Nike in Russia. They were viewed as a top performer there. But part of this is because they really have a strong brand. They very much met their customer where they were. So they were able to basically create online offerings to be able to engage. When you look at some examples here of the Apple Store, Nike, and American Express, you can see that in Spain, the Apple Store continued to build relationships, selling to sell more products, that they kept things online, that they provided store phone support. They very much recognized how they needed to engage with the customer, and they really took it to heart, and they made the pivot. Because all of us know the physical Apple Store has a lot to do with the way that you envision the brand, but they changed. When we looked at Nike, right, you could start to see that they donated a lot of footwear and apparel to communities to basically support their communities. They also put money in against COVID, but again, they also met the customer where they were. Their online presence, their ability to basically have customers come to them and transact, helped to fuel these investments they made in building out relationships in Russia. And then you can see with American Express, they really empowered their customer service professionals to take care of their consumers, to make sure that they could waive interest and late fees based on just some businesses and some individuals just coming to a screeching halt in terms of their economics. So again, you can see what leaders are doing here. You have a non-food retailer, you have a strong brand who is also a retailer and a manufacturer, and you have a financial services company. So very much in keeping with where the top of the leaderboard was. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Pilar to share a little bit of what the insights came from the study in your region.
Thank you, Julio. So now what we are going to discuss is we are going to present how this method, what's the information that this methodology, this research is giving to us. We will look to what our customers on UAE are telling us in terms of which are the brands that are performing better when we talk about the customer experience, which sectors are they belong to, and some specific initiatives that they are putting in place that have been highly recognized by the customers. So just as a key findings, as we said, over 1,512 customers on UAE, they told us that they think Emirates Airlines is again the #1 brand. leading across the 6 pillars. So the performance, UAE's overall performance of customer experience has increased by 7% since the last report that was done on 2018. And the expectations and the empathy are the pillars with biggest increase versus the last report. And we will explain in a second what we meant by that. So let's go on what the 6 pillars are. So let's introduce the 6 pillars experience. These 11 years of research have shown that there are 6 dimensions of customer experience that companies need to excel at if they are to reap the financial rewards that result from loyalty, how likely they were to continue buying goods or services in the future, and advocacy, the likelihood of a customer to recommend a brand. In normal times, these 6 dimensions are really powerful tools for creating successful, sustainable, and ethical business. Imagine on these unprecedented times of the new reality, how powerful these dimensions can be. They actually are an invaluable guide to navigating the changes that will be required by defining excellence in both customer and employee experiences. We can't forget that here we have always 2 sides of this coin. They saw business leaders specifically what they need to create in order to compete for the new reality customer and become or remain high-performing CX leaders. The pillars that we are talking about are the following ones. On the bottom, we have integrity, acting with integrity and building trust with our customers. Resolution, turning a poor experience in a good one. We will see how important is understanding the expectations, managing, meeting, and exceeding customer expectations. Minimizing customer effort and creating frictionless processes, this is what time and effort means. Personalization, using individualized attention to drive emotional connection. And last but not the least, empathy, that we will see how important this pillar, this dimension is being on these challenging times. So now let's see what has changed from last report in 2018. So what we can see is that overall, on our customers in UAE, they perceive that the companies have been improving on the 6 different pillars. So we can see that there is a very positive movement, but it requires some attention. 2 components. One is expectations, another one is the empathy. On these times, for our CX leaders, ongoing non-sales-led communications was already a way of life for others, a circumstance-driven necessity. There are few companies now that do not understand the need to be clear on the expectations they set and the vital role customer communication plays in enabling consumers to plan their lives. Proactive expectations setting communications will now be expected as a standard, not as a nice to have. It is time for all firms to show that they care, that the safety and well-being of their employees and customers is their prime concern. Corporate kindness are 2 words not usually put together, but they are now fundamental to how a company operates from within. So, but is this a commodity? So that there is a clear improvement of the 6 pillars, but we should consider that we are doing to our best. Julio, how do you see these trends going in other countries around the world? Is the same positive improvement?
It is, Pilar. In fact, what I would share with you is there we go. What I would share is overall, year over year, the customer experience excellence index increased 3% this year. And I think companies are beginning to understand the power of the 6 levers and adapting as they go. Clearly going into COVID, as we talked to the marketplace, the idea of integrity and empathy were really critical. But this idea of managing expectations and communicating to expectations continue to be really important. And you can envision that, and you can use logic to get there too, because companies are starting to engage with folks in different ways, in different channels, and different means that might have not been traditional historically, and so they needed to communicate what that meant. And so all of these work together, but the good news in the marketplace is an overall increase of 3%. So that's what we're really seeing, Pilar.
Okay, thank you, Julio. So now let's take a look to the sectors, which have been the sectors performing better from 2018. So we can see that the overall entertainment and leisure is having the better index, but if we look to percentage of growth, utilities and financial services are the ones that are improving, are increasing more. So on these times, remember that we were conducting this survey on the middle of the pandemic. Leading banks such as Emirates NBD, Dubai Islamic Bank, Masrek Bank, and others announced relief measures for their individual and corporate customers to deal with the impact of the outbreak, proving and showing a high empathy as well as integrity that was recognized by the different consumers. So on utilities, it's interesting because one of the things that we want to also to highlight with this report is not just those brands and those sectors that are doing good, but also the ones that are really excelling. The company, and I would like to bring into your attention the company that moved the most significant number of places from one report to the next, also in showcasing all the effort and initiatives putting in place, was Abu Dhabi Water and Electricity Authority. They moved up 20 places to number 15. Jointly with DIWA, they are making utility sector being one of providing one of the best customer experience in UAE. But one thing that is also interesting to highlight, these movements, these large movements, doesn't seem to occur overnight. And the reality is different. It often takes years of effort before the experience has improved so significantly that customers notice. And this is exactly how Adiwa defined their strategy to be revolutionizing the customer experience by 2020. This journey started in 2015 when they, with a fundamental structural review of the organization at IT, and generating a 5-year development roadmap to integrate all the systems and provide a very efficient and personalized experience for its customers. But now let's take a look to how every brand ranks versus last report. And here we have the top 10 brands recognized by UAE customers as the best customer experience providers. As we discussed, as we already mentioned, Emirates Airline is again the leader on the experience. And it's interesting to highlight that it's not just on UAE, but in all those countries where Emirates is operating as a main destination, that have been recognized the excellence delivery. But what all these brands have in common? Probably is one of the questions that we should discuss. I think the first one is the continuous innovation to drive improvement. If the second point, a desire to deliver the best customer experience in the field, knowing their customers, that they allow them to uncover hidden needs. And the last one, being adaptable and responsive, that in a way that they can really often first to market with game-changing innovations. So let's give us some examples on this, of how these companies have been applying and playing with these 4 concepts. Let's start with Emirates. For Emirates, quickly adapting and simplifying its waivers and refund policy with one unified worldwide approach, as well as including free COVID-19 illness insurance. They were proving that they have a quick go-to-market, that were innovating on the way that were applying their internal policies, and that they understand what was important for the customers at that time. A second example, I think is a very relevant one. It's about the Spinneys. Spinneys have made environmental and social practices a greater priority for the company. as they are very important factors for its customers on this pandemic time. So listening to the customers, Spanish shortened timeframes to implement initiatives as local business incubator or Spanish local farmer club that were fully aligned to the requirements of the customers on these times. The other example from many is about Carrefour. Carrefour recently unveiled Movimart, the region's first grocery bus, bringing shopping to the doorsteps of underserved neighborhoods and communities across Dubai 6 days a week. In this time of restrictions of movement, in this time of social distancing, Carrefour understood that what was important was to bring the shop into the customers. So now I think it's time to welcome our panelists. Welcome Vikram and Craig to join us on this theme and start having a discussion. Welcome Vikram, welcome Craig. Thank you very much for being today with us.
Thank you, Pilar. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so thank you, hello. So Vikram, let's start with financial services. Let's start with Emirates MBD. Emirates MBD consistently appears in the top 10 brands in the reports. In 2018 and on the 2020 COVID-19 edition, and actually rosing from the 7th position to the 4th overall on customer experience excellent rank. What we have seen is that overall the financial services sector have improved by 10 points, 10% this year, and is the top industry that saw improvement since 2018. Emirates MBD continue to do an amazing job to provide a better customer experience. Not only Emirates continues to be in the top 10, but it's improving year on year. Because what factors do you think contributes to that?
So I think first of all, thank you very much for the survey. It's been very interesting, and we're obviously delighted to be featured once again in the top 10 with an improvement in the rankings. I must admit that 2020 hasn't really been an easy year for all of us. So it's great to see that the customers are seeing the fact that we're working hard to make sure that our customer experience gets better. So I think some of the things that we believe we've done well. First is that our strategy is very data and insights driven. So to give you an example, we reach out to almost 4,000 customers every month, and we understand what's going on, what are the areas for improvement, and we make sure that if we find areas that require immediate redressal, we're able to sort of immediately act upon that. So I think that's something that we are very proud of. We've done that consistently over the last several years. Second is we are laying a lot of emphasis on our organization's culture. And I must admit that 2020 has been extremely challenging from a culture context because typically you had agents sitting in the office environment controlled, and now you have most of our staff sitting out of their premises. So essentially, we work very hard to make sure, using different programs and interventions, how do we deliver consistently a certain standard of service. I think third was we focused a lot on our digital engagement, and we've invested $1 billion dirhams across our different digital transformation programs, which is currently in an advanced stage. So that has paid off, and we saw that a lot of our clients continue to bank with us from where they were through our mobile and online platform. And equally, our digital bank for the millennials, Live, that continue to gain currency, and we found that interesting. And last but not the least, I think what customers have appreciated is the fact that we have a wide suite of products and services which caters to their needs. So from fitness accounts, so you could be sitting at home, but the more steps you take, the more interest you earn, to WhatsApp banking, where we could be just a few seconds away, to remittance products, where in 60 seconds to your home country, funds can be made available, to also account opening in a few minutes through the mobile app. So I think it's a combination of all of this, from a strategy to culture to investments in digital, and also focusing on innovative products and services that customers have recognized us for. And we are grateful to be in this position.
Uh, Thank you very much, Vikram. I hope that on the next report we can see also Emirates MBD going up and up on the rank. So, Craig, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Craig is
Thank you,
the
Pilar.
group director of Majid Al Futtaim, two of MAF brands, Carrefour and Box Cinemas, continue to remain top performers. Both brands are present in the top 10 brands in the UAE. But it's true that this year they are dropping one spot, Carrefour from 4th in 2018 to the 5th, and Box from the 2nd to the 3rd. But having said that, I think Box is contributing to the success and of the entertainment and leisure industry. What are your thoughts on how the customer expectations are changing? And I know that is a quite broad question. Although Carrefour and Box are doing better than they did, do you think the customer benchmark overall is rising in the market? I mean, is making more and more difficult to the brands to really excel on the experience delivery?
So I think customer expectations are continually rising. So no matter what's happening in the world, we all need to focus on how customer needs change and how their expectations rise over time. So what will have been a delighter 2 years ago will likely be a satisfier today. And with COVID, expectations have changed dramatically too. So this year has been a particularly interesting year for all of us. I also think in this region, we're behind the curve in terms of digital transformation. And one thing that COVID has done is accelerate investment in digital. And I think we've all seen that across all parts of the globe, not just in this region. And one thing we're proud of at Majid Al Futtaim is because we had an established customer experience function in each business, we deliver on customers' expectations by starting with the customer and then designing to their needs. And so you talk about empathy in your 6 pillars, right? You have it at the top of that pyramid, but actually we talk about building an emotional connection with our customers all the time, and actually empathizing with customers is essential. And you must continue to understand what the customer expectations are. And one thing we did, as we went into lockdown, was run consumer sentiment surveys continuously. We, using one of our proprietary services we have within Majid Al Futtaim called the Happiness Lab, we're able to share that sentiment back into the businesses, so we could then plan accordingly, and build something that we think is extremely important, which is trust. Right, the consumers, particularly as we were coming out of lockdown and even during lockdown, were going to interact with brands that they truly trust. So we were customer led in everything we did, and I think. Responding to the changing expectations. So you asked if they were rising. I think they are always rising, but actually this year they were changing, and it was important that we understood how and then respond to that.
Thank you, Greg. Julio, now I'm going to turn over to you, because I think both Vikram and Craig have given us very interesting reflections. Vikram, more about the kind of initiatives that financial services are putting in place to really excel, about this clear data-driven strategy, this cultural alignment. And Craig has given us a view about more the emotional component of their initiatives on MAP, how they are guaranteeing the trust for the customers, how are really getting this emotional touch with them. Are you seeing the same kind of trends into financial services and retail globally?
Yes, and let me just converge a couple of thoughts real quick here, just in terms of framing the issue, right? And I think Craig and Vikram did a fantastic job in describing how their enterprises are moving forward and engaging the customer. But if you just step back for a moment, what we always talk to our clients about is there's a couple of things that need to happen, right? One is you need to understand your customers. And I think Craig and Vikram talked about both of that. Vikram talked about how he's surveying and they're doing focus groups with 4,000 customers every month to really understand what's going on with them and what their needs are. Craig talked about really understanding what the customer is trying to accomplish and empathizing with what they're trying to accomplish. And in both cases, in non-food retail as well as in financial services, I think folks said, hey, what is it that individuals are trying to accomplish and how can we meet them? And in both cases, those two sectors were massive leaders in our study this year. They accelerated. And when you put that, especially in the banking construct of the changes that have happened over the last dozen years, it's fantastic. So one is they're really developing an understanding of their customer. The second thing that we're seeing leaders do is really be intentional about the customer experience that they're trying to deliver and really defining that. And they use the 6 pillars to understand what those experiences need to be like, where they're going to win, the key moments of truth, et cetera, and really start to create the playbook for the company to be able to execute and deliver on that experience. But one of the things that Vikram said, I think is really critical, was also that they focus on the culture. What's the mindset of taking care of the customer, right? You can't be empathetic if you have a culture that doesn't care about the customer. You can't have integrity if you don't have a culture that values, truthfulness and trustworthiness. And so again, this culture piece, while it seems soft, applies to the pillars. So this idea of understanding the customer and designing the experiences intentionally and delivering the experiences intentionally are important. The last point is you have to align the business to be able to execute. So while you may focus on a couple of pillars and you might design some great experiences, if the organization's not in a position to be able to execute and actually do the job that they need to do to deliver the experience they want to, then it's critical. And I think it's really interesting. One of the things that Craig just said that I think is worth bearing out and teasing out is I love this idea of a happiness lab, this idea of really thinking about really how are we going to win with the customer, how are we going to build trust, and et cetera. I think that's important. But think about that. I view what Craig just described, right, as a capability. Our clients are building a customer experience capability within their businesses to be able to define those experiences. Because as Craig and Vikram both pointed out, but Craig really teased it out, he said the expectations continue to rise. They do, because what was a wow 2 years ago might be just standard today, but also how I'm influenced by Emirates or how I'm influenced by another company also comes across cross industry. So I need to be able to be in a position to continuously move that thing forward. And that capability to be able to define those experiences is critical. And so I think that what you're seeing here is everyone's game is getting upped and we're getting smarter and smarter about how to do it. And then the last point is not only did their expectations increase, but they changed. They didn't expect always to have a physical environment. And so I'm over here in the United States, and as am I prone to do, I've got the wire going, right? And while it's interesting, literally Walmart just came out and their e-commerce sales increased by 79% year over year. That's amazing, right? And so they changed. If you had told me a Walmart consumer 10 years ago was going to be buying online, I would have said no way. But this pandemic has accelerated where people want to do business. And if you listen to Satyam from Microsoft, the digital agenda has just only accelerated in a way that you've never seen before. So if you've been a bricks and mortar retailer and you don't have that, you start to change. So those are things we're seeing. We're seeing people embrace them, and it's making a difference with the year-over-year increase on the customer experience excellence survey and results.
Thank you very much, Julio. Very interesting. And I would like to pick on one of your comments that is about acceleration. And my question now comes to Vikram, because one of the things that we are discussing is how COVID-19 has accelerated some of the initiatives that the companies have on their roadmaps, and they have to really speed it up to bring them into the market. Can you tell us about how much of these initiatives are going to be sustainable and required? Are we going to come back to the normal, the previous reality, or this pandemic actually is changing the way that we are going to interact with our customers?
Yeah, so I don't like the term, but I'm going to use it for just a moment. So many people talk about omni-channel, right? Or we'll talk about a connected enterprise, but it's basically people are going to want the options to engage with the brands where they want to engage with the brands. And if you look at companies like Under Armour or Nike or Adidas that are really doing that, they're engaging through their channel partners, or also engaging through their own online stores and through their own physical footprint. They're really changing it, and how you're going to engage with them is going to change. If you look at a financial services institution, you look at asset management, you used to go in and sit around the mahogany table and talk to your financial advisor. Now you might just do a Zoom call. And I'm not sure that you really want to go back to that mahogany table all the time to get that cup of tea for them to talk about your money. Maybe you want to just talk about your money from your yacht, if you're so lucky. So the point is that I think it's going to very much change. But what I want to share also is we just conducted a study at the end of the summer and into the fall about where people were investing their dollars, especially around quote unquote digital transformation. And there's a couple of stats that are worth thinking about. First and foremost, 80% of them said that digital transformation was important pre-COVID, and that they were aligning their business around the customer. So clearly, with the 128 participants we have on the phone today, all of you are very customer centric. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be participating in this conversation. But what's very interesting is the digital acceleration. The client said 70% of them said they actually accelerated their digital transformation and their engagement with customers even more so than they did pre-COVID. So it just accelerated, validating what Satyam and others have said in the marketplace. But secondly, 77% have increased their budgets for digital transformation. And the key items around digital transformation where people are making investments is really around experience centricity, thinking about what's the right experience to deliver, not only to the customer, but enabling their employees to be able to deliver the experience. And secondly, they're investing in basically what we call seamless commerce and interactions, being able to set the interaction channels up so that people be engaged in the right place. So this is a great time. I don't think the consumer is going to go back. As Craig said, their expectations have changed, they're increasing, and they've changed. So I think we've got a new playing field. It doesn't mean physical is going to go away. I think people are still going to want to go back to some of those beautiful malls that you have in the UAE, but at the same time, I think people are going to want to engage the way they want to engage on their terms.
Okay, thank you, Julio. Vikram, can you give us some examples of these initiatives that have been accelerated to cope with the situation during COVID-19?
So I'll talk about a few areas that I believe are extremely important in the context of where we're at. I think first is this whole conversation about concerns of the economic outlook, and what one needs to do to make sure that you're constantly restoring confidence and rebuilding trust. I think it's incumbent on every company, no matter which sector you belong to put out a strong vision of the future that enables people to be a lot more motivated in terms of how they see things, and that then becomes hopefully a ripple effect. I think second, this whole concept around meet me where I am, that is accelerating not just for us, but for almost every industry that one interacts with. So we will continue to make sure as an organization, as a bank, that our digital agenda gets even further accelerated. We've got a whole pipeline of initiatives which have got rapidly accelerated over the last couple of months, and you'll see a lot of that coming out there in the market in a short while from now. But I think the whole digital focus continues, and it's mainstay. Also, I think the third point is customers are now expecting a very strong level of understanding and contextual clarity being demonstrated by organizations. So, for example, what we've seen in the last couple of months is several of our clients have come to us about their changes in their economic reality, and we've been quite quick in coming up with sort of solutions that can help them in dealing with these situations much better. And I think the last but not the least, but I think is super important, is what will the organization's new culture be, and how will you create sustainability, and how do you make sure that people still collaborate with each other, they take ownership, they drive future actions, and develop, and and demonstrate a certain sense of enterprise, so that everyone is in this business of creating opportunities to prosper. So I think those are some of the themes that are top of our agenda at the moment. But we continue to be very optimistic. These are incredible times, and it's time to experiment and do things that we've never done before.
Okay, thank you very much, Vikram. Craig, now a similar question to you, although I think everybody on this webinar remember how quickly MAF react, moving staff from cinemas, from box to support and provide extra capacity into the retail side, into the stores of Carrefour. Which other initiatives MAF have put in place during this COVID-19, and how sustainable do you think that these initiatives are going to be?
So yeah, thank you for pointing out the initiative we took to redeploy colleagues. So we too invest very much in the culture of the organisation, and actually everybody is willing to go where they need to go. So we did share resources across the Majid Al Futtaim group of companies to ensure that we were able to deliver to our customer needs in the businesses that need them. And you're talking about Carrefour there, which was a business that never stopped and was providing essentials to our customers, particularly during the time of lockdown, right? But I think there's many initiatives that we launched this year, which was in response to the changing consumer sentiment. And by understanding what was important to customers from the sentiment surveys I was talking about earlier, and from our we also have an established voice of the customer program that's been in place since 2016. So we're able to speak to customers through that channel as well. We then adjusted accordingly. So I mean, one of the things that really stood out for us was that customers really cared about health and safety. And I mentioned trust before, but we really centered on this, right? It's so important. Customers will interact with brands that they trust. And so in Vox cinemas, we launched a number of initiatives. So many of you probably are aware of the first drive-in cinema that we launched. So there was a time during lockdown where everyone was just desperate to be able to go out, and though there were a few places we were allowed to go, we were allowed to go to Carrefour and do our grocery shopping or your supermarket of choice. When we opened something experiential like the cinema, even though we were showing movies that some people had already seen, they really appreciated the ability to just go out, forget what was happening in the world around them, and just enjoy a night at the movies. And we executed that extremely well. I think within the leisure, entertainment, and cinema business, we focus on the customer in everything that we do. So all of these new initiatives had the customer at the forefront. We understood the customer needs. We designed the experience, mapped out their journeys, understood where there may be any pain points in that journey, and ensured that we adjusted accordingly. We also invested in the contactless journey. So, customers were telling us that they were actually scared to interact with other humans and touching things along that journey. So we focused very much on establishing a contactless journey. So we already had the Vox Cinema app that's used heavily by our customers. So we leveraged that, right? Leveraged our investment in digital to then be able to improve, and I too don't like this term, Julio, the omni-channel experience, but genuinely we have an experience here where you're using a digital device to take you through the physical environment. And actually we're now sort of piloting the final stage of that contactless journey by delivering food to your seat. So now as a Vox Cinema customer, you can choose your venue, choose your movie, book your ticket, and order your food and just go straight to your seat in the cinema. And that's being piloted in Mall of the Emirates right now. And then we will learn from that pilot and then roll that out across our estate. This is what customers told us they wanted, some of them. Another thing that we did in the cinema business was launch the concept of a private cinema. So we enabled customers who told us they were worried about going into a movie theatre with people they didn't know to book a full cinema theatre for themselves and up to 10 friends. and that proved to be extremely successful, and again gave people the opportunity to go out, but they knew they were coming into a safe environment. And then in Carrefour as well, which I touched upon briefly, we invested heavily in e-commerce. We already had our e-commerce channels up and running, but we also invested in our distribution capability. So the statistics there that Julio you just read out, we saw the similar numbers in Carrefour as well. The demand on our online shopping business was exponential, and therefore we needed to be able to respond. And we invested. We have a pop-up distribution center over near the airport, which is then able to ensure that we deliver the goods to our customers in a timely fashion. The Carrefour team also invested in click and collect, so we have the parking and in-store version. We also have a version which is completely unmanned and automated in DIFC, and mobile scan and go was another product that we launched. And all of these initiatives had the customer experience at the forefront. Our experience design team involved in understanding the customer needs and then designing that experience so that it works for the customers. And that's not to say it goes live and it's perfect. It means that we've understood you, and we continue to evolve and iterate once the products are live as well. But we really focus on listening to our customers and then adjusting accordingly.
Greg, looking forward for the new things that you guys will put in place. So, Vikram, Greg, Julio, thank you very much for this, for your contribution to the panel. So we are 6 minutes ahead of finalizing the session. So let's go, before going to the questions and answer, just a summary of what we have been discussing. We believe that the COVID-19 has only accelerated the pace at which customers have adopted the new behaviors. And of course, the companies need to really, they have to deliver on this by connecting the front, the middle, and back office, by embedding the connected enterprise concept across the organization. I think and now we can split the market into kind of businesses: the business that believe that customer behavior will return to pre-COVID-19, and the businesses that plan for a post-COVID future in which customers' needs will be forever altered. And we strongly believe that this is going to be the case. So now, 5 minutes to conclude the webinar. I would like to open the floor for some questions that you can have for our panelists. So let's go to the questions and answers. Well, I can see that we have some questions coming during the speech. We have a question for Vikram. Vikram, one of the attendees is asking, do you think the spark of customer experience was started in Emirates MBD in 2007, 2008, when the focus was on one customer with multi-products and high retention rate?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the merger was a very interesting exercise. I had the opportunity of joining the bank at that point in time. And what we realized is that it was an extremely crowded market. But for us to differentiate, we were very clear that we need to have a strong focus on the customer and adding value in every which way. So yes, the merger had a big role to play. But having said that, I think I would give a lot of credit to the leadership of the bank, and as well as our board. They are obsessed with the customer. I can't tell you how often am I contacted for information about issues, resolution, availability of capital for programs that are important. So I think right from the time that the organization sort of came together and formed the shape that we're in, we've been lucky enough to have a set of colleagues leading the bank who are very clear that to win in this marketplace, customer experience would be the key differentiator.
Okay, thank you. So Julio, we have one question that is more related to the methodology of our 6 pillars methodology. So one of the members of the audience is asking that if within financial services, we are also including insurance.
Yes, and in fact, and we will send out not only the recording, but we will send out the global report that has the top 27 companies But just to give you a flavor of it, right? American Express was the leader in Singapore. USAA, which is a major insurance company and bank in the United States, was the leader. AIA was the leader in Thailand. Credit Union was the leader in Ireland. First Direct was the leader in the UK. So those are just 5 examples. So it does include insurance, it does include banking, it does include credit cards in under the context of financial services. And to many of the financial services individuals who are listening, if you think about the needs of a customer, oftentimes it's not just about banking, but it's about managing risk. And oftentimes those things get bundled together and to serve the customer. So again, no surprise that those things travel together to a certain extent.
Okay. Okay, we have another question to Julio. We see a lot of initiatives focused on channels and front of office athlete, but is that enough to enhance and maintain a good experience? What about the middle and back office?
Yeah, so what I would tell you, and I really liked the stories from both Vikram and Craig, while they designed great experiences, they didn't stop at the experience. So many people think it's just about the interaction layer, but it's actually about aligning the operations and the back office to be able to execute. And what do I mean by that? There is no way. So again, talking to Craig, you said, we put some stuff by the airport so people could pick things up and we could dispatch things and all the rest. If you don't think about the supply chain and the operational reality of delivering products and services, it doesn't matter how good your promise is, you're not executing it. If you think about some of the leaders in market capitalization and customer experience, I can guarantee you that Amazon is customer obsessed, but at the end of the day, they spend so much time making sure they can actually execute from an operational perspective. And then lastly, if you go into the telco industry, you go into the financial services industry, you go into industries that basically are consumption based, if you cannot get your billing systems built the right way, then you deliver a terrible experience and you've got all this inbound traffic into your contact centers, into your websites. So you've got to basically align your customer, not only the front office, but your operations and your infrastructure to be able to execute against that customer promise. And so it's really important. Last point I'd say is when you do that, you can start to value engineer the business around your customers and actually get operating leverage. So absolutely, you need to think about front, middle, and back office.
Thank you, Julio. I'm conscious of the time. This hour actually went so quickly. So thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you very much for all of you that were attending this session. We will be very keen to answer any questions that you can have, any questions that have been published on the post on the panel and we couldn't answer. We will answer one by one. And if you are keen to know more about our report, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.